The music industry is crazy, but no genre produces as many wild stories as the world of hip-hop. From gangsters who've entered the genre to make a better life for themselves, to all kinds of weird and wonderful characters that have found their way to the rap game as either an artist, manager, or anything in between. The people involved in hip-hop are already wilder than most people would ever imagine. So it's no surprise when you look at some of the insane things that have allegedly happened to them. Some of these tales are even stranger than fiction. Because today, we'll be talking about everything from premeditated bombings to alleged kidnappings in Africa, and even rumors that the government uses rappers for their own deceitful purposes. It's your boy Louaista, and these are some of rap's craziest conspiracies. And at the moment, no one is generating more crazy stories than this disgraced hip-hop legend.
One of the other allegations in the Cassie Ventura lawsuit concerned Kid Cudi. This is from Michael Velli from YouTube. Will the feds investigate the rumors that Kid Cudi's car was blown up by Diddy?
Right now, the chickens are coming home to roost for the bad boy CEO. After years of speculation about his drug use, sexual abuse, and homosexuality, all the secrets that Puff kept hidden or that he allegedly paid hush money to suppress are now spilling out, and there are some really wild allegations. And while we could be here all day covering Puff, most of the craziest allegations about him come from his days with his ex and R&B singer Cassie Ventura. Back when she was signed to Bad Boy, Diddy and Cassie were in a relationship that was deeply abusive. Alongside endless assaults from him, Puff also showed off the depths of his controlling nature and ruthlessness. There's millions of stories, but take this one that someone informed the UK's Daily Mail of for an example of what Puff was allegedly like behind the scenes in 2009. Combs apparently pressured Cassie to get breast implants, then demanded the next day that celebrity surgeon Dr. Frank Ryan remove them because they were too big. Despite warnings it would be harmful to Cassie to do that. But Diddy was like, no, they've got to come out. Call who you need to call, they've got to come out. This is typical of the craziness that Cassie was exposed to during her time with Puff. But perhaps the wildest rumor of all comes from his assassination attempt on Kid Cudi when he allegedly blew up his car for what he did to Cassie. Yes, really. And Kid Cudi himself has actually confirmed it was true. Before the drama, Diddy actually introduced them to one another so that he could help Cassie work on her music. At one point, Cassie even stayed at Cudi's house for a while when the abuse from Diddy got too much for her to handle. Initially, he thought that's all it was until one day, he looked through her phone and discovered they were dating behind his back. Diddy saw red, prompting him to, quote, place a manual corkscrew between his fingers and chase her around the house. Her then security guard, Roger Bonds, corroborated this story in an interview with Vlad TV.
From what I'm hearing is that she was having an affair with Kid Cudi. When he went through the phone, he called the number and Kid Cudi picked up. And he was like, what? I don't know exactly what he said. I know that he went over to his house and Kid Cudi wasn't there. So I know at that particular time, after that happened, Cassie wouldn't come around.
When he couldn't exact his revenge on Cassie herself, he took his frustrations out on his personal assistant, Capricorn.
And he really got upset with her because she had to know about Kid Cudi because she never went to the studio by herself. She always went with Cassie. And he put hands on Capricorn because of that situation. And Capricorn ended up leaving and suing him for it. And he paid Capricorn $450,000.
Eventually, Cassie returned to Diddy's side, but he wasn't done getting back at those involved, and apparently, Cudi got into a fight with Diddy at a club in LA in October of 2012, where the two reportedly exchanged some heated words to the point where the entire club was watching, creating a huge scene. Afterwards, Cudi seemed to reference the incident on his track Dennis Hooked Me Up With Some Whiskey, where he said,
niggas really want me that hate, not my fault, I'm intriguing, drinking and driving, no weaving.
Which many felt like was a direct response to the situation. But Cudi probably didn't realize how right he was about that. And since Diddy was unable to let go of what happened, he hatched a plot to get back at Cudi by blowing up his car as it sat in the driveway of his house. And to make sure he knew who he was messing with, he even literally told Cassie that he was gonna do it. In February of 2012, during Paris Fashion Week, Diddy told Cassie that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car, and that he wanted to ensure that Kid Cudi was home with his friends when it happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway, but what people probably didn't expect was that Cudi completely backed her up. because just days after the story came to light, a spokeswoman for Kid Cudi additionally confirmed Cassie's account to the New York Times, where she said, "This is all true." Among all of the stories that emerged, this really left people shook because it showed the length that Puff was willing to go when he had a message to send. One user wrote that this incident, quote, scared him the most, and that it only was ignored because it was another celebrity. Imagine that was a random innocent civilian. That shit is terrifying. He even knows the number to call to arrange a mafia-style hit like that. And according to Boosie, Diddy was essentially sick in love to do something like this.
If somebody do that behind a woman, you sick in love, like you on something.
Initially, some people were skeptical that Diddy could get away with this for so long. No way Kid Cudi's car blew up and not a single article to be found about it. But it turns out this actually wasn't the first time it had been brought up. Way back in 2014, a writer named Gavin Godfrey actually tweeted about it, saying, "I heard Diddy set Kid Cudi's car on fire for messing around with Cassie once." Despite being an iconic figure in the rap game, Diddy apparently operated more like a mob boss than a record label CEO. But it seems like he wasn't a concern for the people at the center of the next conspiracy theory, the hip-hop police. When it comes to the police of hip-hop, you probably think of people like DJ Vlad, who many accuse of using his interviews as a way to try and get rappers to confess to serious crimes, such as the time he asked this to Pee Wee Longway in February of 2017.
Like, how old were you when you first started hustling?
I wasn't hustling, man. I was a school guy, man. Going to school, handling my business, man, you know?
You 100% legal? You were good?
Yeah.
Doing everything by the book?
Doing it by the book, man. Make sure it happens.
Okay.
He's asked so many questions that caught so many rappers off guard, and even pulled a Nardwar on Lil Baby one time.
Okay, you got into a fight with a white dude.
Exactly.
Was it like a racist thing? Was it like whites and blacks kind of clicked up in there?
How you know that?
That's just how prison is most times.
I'm telling you, how you know I got into it with a white dude though?
I think you may have mentioned it in the past.
It got so bad that in one interview, Griselda's Benny the Butcher straight up called him out for it.
But let me ask you this. Okay, let me ask you this question right here. Let me ask you this. If you got the platform and you know that, you know what I'm saying? Like, what make you ask those questions like that?
Anyone who I talk to, I talk about past shit. I don't interview people knowing they're still doing whatever illegal shit in their present life.
Right.
You know, as I'm talking to them. We don't have those types of relationships.
Right.
And in fact, we've even, you know, you'll see certain interviews where it's like, oh, you have an open case? Let's not talk about it. Next question.
Okay, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
you know, when I interviewed the Baby, he still had an open case, you know, when he killed that one dude in self-defense at Walmart. So I said, hey, we're just not gonna talk about it.
Vlad's interviews are so much more like interrogations that people even think he played a part in getting a rapper by the name of AR Ab locked up, as it was allegedly reported that he admitted to a crime while doing an interview with him. However, it was debunked by AR Ab himself. But while Vlad was accused of being a Fed who willingly tried to incriminate rappers, there's a conspiracy that runs a bit deeper when it comes to the police of hip-hop. If you're not familiar with this special unit of the NYPD, here's the late prodigy from Mobb Deep to explain what they apparently do.
The task force that works alongside the gun squad, their jurisdiction, it goes through all the boroughs, the hip-hop task force. A lot of people thought it was a myth at first, not true. They tried to deny it at first, but, you know, I actually met with the guy that started the task force, the captain of his little precinct that he worked in. They gave him budget to do this task force. They target us. A lot of it is brought up, we bring it upon ourselves. You know, we an easy target. They see a car that looks like a rapper car. And they like, yeah, I'm gonna pull this car over because most likely there's a gun or some weed or something in that car right there.
Prodigy also believed that once you're aware of it, you need to know how to avoid it.
It's my job to know that they targeted me, and it's my job to be on point and protect myself from anything that can happen. And I wasn't on my job as much as I should have been.
Tasked with keeping the pressure of the rap world, the theory goes that the hip-hop police were given free reign to do whatever it took to keep these MCs in check. And over time, the officers enforcing this law became recognizable figures to rappers like Tony Yayo, who had to deal with harassment from them on a daily basis.
Hip-hop police used to follow me home, follow 50 home. I done been to clubs and hip-hop police will have 4 or 5 cars. Back then we had Superman. Y'all don't even know who Superman is. Superman was tall, he looked like Christopher Reeve. He'll grab you right out the car, grab by the waist. He'll see the weed, he'll be like, I don't care about it. Where's the guns? These are all hip-hop police. You had Curly Top, Superman. When them niggas come, you better not have a gun on you. The feds are watching.
Throughout the years, their existence was shrouded in mystery. But since the 90s, artists have gradually lifted the lid on what they experienced, and because of that, today's artists are aware of them and actively trying to stay off of their radars.
If you haven't read Decoded Jay-Z's book, he got a great scene in there about the hip hop police. Is real interesting. So
you ever had any run-in with the hip hop police?
Not yet.
Now
I'm trying to provoke that
exactly.
so I can make sure that I can tell the tale too, because that ain't cool.
No,
they can't be doing that shit.
Not in real life.
Nah, not in real life. It's cool to just act like it's like a myth, but if they really doing that shit, that's kind of weak.
Although it started in New York, it seems like dedicating an entire unit to dealing with visiting rappers has spread to the South. This was made clear in a 2004 Miami Herald article where they accused their police department of secretly watching and keeping dossiers on hip-hop celebrities, and said that they photographed rappers as they arrived at Miami International Airport. In the wake of the news, the American Civil Liberties Union and the Hip Hop Summit Action Network soon threatened legal action on the grounds that a very dangerous precedent has been set. It needs to be exposed, and we're going to take legal action against these police departments for violating the constitutional rights of hip-hop artists. As crazy as this is, it turns out there are some dirty cops in their ranks too. According to Uncle Snoop, he even managed to bribe them to work for him instead.
Nigga, whenever I would go to New York, the motherfuckers would be outside my hotel. They would follow me to the motherfucking shows. They arrest certain niggas with me that, like, if a nigga had weed on them, they would be like on a nigga heels, like right there, like damn, cuz, like hold on, them niggas like a real movie or a TV show when you just know a nigga following you. Then one day I had my security, go holler at them niggas, man. Went and hollered at them, yeah, we the hip hop police. We on Snoop ass. He better not do a motherfucking thing while he out there. I went down there by myself. What's happening, homie? What's up with you? Why y'all following me? I don't do crimes. I don't do all that shit, man. What's going on? Oh, man, Snoop Dogg, we really love you, man. We ain't fucking with you like that. Man, what's happening? Why don't y'all work for me, man? Look out for a nigga, man. Put a few dollars in y'all pocket. That sound like a good idea. I'm gonna run it past my partner.
In the 90s, rap had so many street certified artists for them to target. But if our next conspiracy theory is to be believed, then that might not have been a coincidence. And maybe even the success of the drill scenes we see today have a more sinister undercurrent to them. This is the alleged plot to use gangster rap to populate private prisons. You guys might know a man by the name of Charleston White, the unfiltered spokesman of hip-hop who has been banned across multiple social media platforms for his controversial takes. Well, one time I did a video on him, and in my research, I found the clip where he had a hot take about gangster rap that may actually have some truth to it. Here's the clip.
Gangbanging came before gangster rap.
And then the rap perpetuated it.
And solidified it, yeah. Okay. Just the propaganda, the fuel to it.
Now, what's crazy is that not too long ago, an anonymous confessional from a former music executive was released. And it really shows that Charleston was onto something. After seeing what had happened since he left the industry, he felt the need to speak out about what happened back in 1991 when a group of music business bigwigs gathered outside of Los Angeles. In his anonymous confessional, the unnamed whistleblower recalled seeing some people he didn't recognize, and it was them who explained their plot. He told us that since our employers had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remained filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He explained that the companies we work for had invested millions into the business of privately owned prisons, and that our position and influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Within a few months of the meeting taking place, he said that he noticed a drastic difference in the direction of music. According to him, it was as if the order had been given to all major label executives. The music was climbing the charts, and most companies were more than happy to capitalize on it. Now, this seems really wild, but some rappers like Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony have argued that if you look at how music has evolved since this alleged meeting took place, it actually might be more plausible than you would think.
They were told not to sign any more political rappers, any more rappers that had messes in their music.
No positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out. The first emotion I felt was shocked, because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved. The second emotion I felt was anger. Anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it. Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artist. Never. but they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison. They making the killing.
Fans have bought it too, and it probably says a lot about where we're at in society that it seems totally possible. After what I've learned about Diddy with Usher, with Justin Bieber and freaking Meek Mill, shit doesn't seem that crazy. Especially if you looking up the percentage of African Americans we got locked away. How we had 21% of the world's inmates in 2015, and how long a prison sentence is in the US versus other countries. Rather than deny it, one hip-hop legend who made music about life in the streets actually thinks it's easily detectable when you look at who really benefits from all the violence surrounding gangsta rap.
Who benefits and profits off our bickering and our division? I don't know their names, Bill, but if you follow the money, you go high enough, you start to see literally the same people who own the labels own private prison. It seems really kind of suspicious, if you want to say that word, that the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
With private prisons estimated to generate around $4 billion in annual profits, it appears that if that meeting was real, then the labels are doing their jobs. But it's arguably gone one step further, as we now have record numbers of rappers either dead or behind bars. It's gone to another level now. That drill music not only gets the consumers, but the rappers themselves. While many of today's rappers unfortunately losing their lives as a result of their proximity to gang violence, this isn't the only factor that has led so many talented artists passing away long before they should. But in the eyes of those who are in favor of our next theory, one of the most tragic deaths that struck hip-hop in recent years might have been an elaborate plan to let the young rapper escape the pressures of fame. I'm talking about the rumors that Juice WRLD faked his death and is actually still among us today. By now, you're probably familiar with the tragic circumstances surrounding Juice's demise. Just days after his 21st birthday, Juice WRLD was traveling back to Chicago on a private plane with his entourage, when they were informed that the cops were waiting for them at the airport. Despite the fact that he had dozens of guns and pounds of weed on board, it was the pills in Juice's pocket that concerned him. So he decided to swallow everything he had, resulting in a tragic overdose in Midway Airport. While the coroner ruled his death was the direct result of toxic levels of codeine and oxycodone in his body, some people weren't willing to accept that this is how he met his end, or that he even died in the first place. The theory all started when people began to notice this tweet from back in 2017, where Juice outlined his plan. My goal is to get overly famous, shine for a couple of years, then fake my death. As he racked up #1 albums and embarked on world tours, you could argue that he was already overly famous by the time he passed and might have decided to escape from it all. Elsewhere, there were some things that just didn't add up. For one thing, the Washington Post appeared to share the news of his demise 2 days before it actually happened. Then, as is always the case when a rapper passes away in suspicious circumstances, people started to dig deep into his lyrics for clues that he orchestrated the whole thing. For example, in All Girls Are the Same, Juice says, "I'm a jealous boy, really feel like John Lennon." Not only was December 8th the exact day that John Lennon was murdered, but it's also the same day Juice died. Other people drew parallels to Tupac Shakur, another rapper who was alleged to have faked his own death and had mapped the whole thing out on his final album under the name Machiavelli. On his track Chrome, Juice mentioned not only the drug use that had apparently spelled his end, but he also mentioned the rapper who was at the center of one of the original rap conspiracy theories. Does anybody know what planet I'm on? I'm on Venus, giving aliens penis. Juice WRLD, Machiavelli, I mean it. With so much speculation swirling around, what probably didn't help was the fact that his ex-girlfriend, Ali Lottie, was throwing fuel on the fire with her Instagram rants that, while never claiming he was still alive, certainly implied that some other stuff was going on.
I've been quiet for the past year and a half plus into myself, took myself away from everyone because I knew what was going to happen. If people knew what happened the day before Jared passed and the day that Jared passed and everything like that, which I cannot speak upon at this moment, but I will. I just have to make sure that I am safe.
Y'all mad because literally I'm like, oh, blah, 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 you guys think he died from a... You're wrong! You're wrong! Literally! okay? There's a lot of shit y'all don't know that I grieve through myself while I let y'all grieve and talk mad shit on me. I don't care.
Try as they might, fans couldn't prove that Juice was still around, and every time they speculated he might make his return, he never re-emerged. Unfortunately, the truth was that no matter how much they wanted him to still be living, the late Juice WRLD was simply a young man with demons that caught up to him. Sadly, rappers dying from drug use is nothing new these days. While there is a real drug epidemic at the moment, other rappers such as the legendary Pimp C of UGK was also said to have been killed by the substances he relied on. But there are those who feel that the story of what happened in that hotel room has been suppressed and in reality, he was actually murdered. When the Houston rap legend passed, the general consensus was that it was a result of his lifetime lean habit, but it was actually his codeine use combined in with sleep apnea that was ruled as the cause of death. He had prescription medication in him when he passed away, a spokesman from the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office explained, and the levels were elevated but not real high. So it wasn't an overdose, but we think it was the result of taking the cough medication with his sleeping problems. Although the authorities were content to say that it was accidental, not everyone was convinced, because in the weeks leading up to his tragic passing, Pimp C had been hellbent on exposing the seedy underbelly of the rap world. First, he made some enemies with his Chronicles of Pimp C articles for Ozone magazine. In these columns, he called out everyone from alleged undercover homosexuals in music to people like Houston producer Lil Troy, who he believed had been snitching on the whole north side of Houston and put a bunch of people's daddies, brothers, uncles, and sons in the penitentiary. His claims included that R&B singer Neo is gay, claimed that Atlanta is not in the South because Atlanta is on East Coast time, and accuses certain artists like Young Jeezy of abandoning BMF after the feds cracked down on them. In response, people like the hood-connected Lil Troy advised that he keep his nose out of his business. The beef was between me and Face. It didn't have anything to do with Pimp C. Pimp ain't even no gangster. I went to jail on drug charges. He got locked up for pulling a gun on a woman in a mall. Is that gangster? You can't compare your rap sheet to mine. Despite the fact that he was probably playing with fire with his claims, Pimp C just kept doubling down.
Some of these niggas, I don't never see these niggas in the street, man, you know what I'm saying? We be out in the open, man, because we ain't hiding, because we ain't fucked over nobody and stole nobody money, man. We ain't told on nobody, and I just left the penitentiary, and man, the nigga with the little time was the nigga that was the punk down there, nigga. The nigga doing 25 and anything over 1 digit was staying up guys. The nigga with 2 years or 3 years was down there fucking them boys in the head, nigga. You know you is, nigga. Know what I'm talking about, old punk ass nigga. And while I'm talking about it, there's a whole bunch of you hoe ass rap niggas that's in the closet, nigga.
As news spread of his passing, the South went into mourning. But as the years passed, some of those close to him began to reveal information which might suggest that the narrative we've been told isn't exactly true. First, there was the 3-6 Mafia's DJ Paul, who was with Pimp C just days before his passing.
He said Pimp C was like he was laying down like he was praying. And but it was blood all over the bed, like he threw it up, but they thought he had been shot in the head. You know, they didn't know what the hell happened.
While he didn't necessarily say there was foul play, the Bay Area's Too Short had reservations based on the lack of transparency over what happened that day.
So right off the rip, I'm like, what happened? What happened? And all I get back is, well, he was in his room by himself and they found him. I'm like, was the door, did it have that thing on it? Like, tell me something. And the most I could get was, I never got if the door was locked and I just had to break it down. Because if the door wasn't locked, that means somebody left out. With me, I never really heard something that would give that closure for me. I never really heard anything tangible or true, like what happened to my guy.
While there were alarm bells ringing already, the person who really raised the alarm was Pimp C's biographer, Julia Murray. During the press run for the book, Julia provided more detail than the public ever had previously, opening up a whole new range of theories. Speaking on behalf of his mother, Julia revealed that she felt something was amiss in the reports.
His mom believes he was murdered, and she basically breaks down the reasons why she believes that. But as far as like physical evidence, I had some other people review the autopsy report and things like that, and they didn't really come to a solid conclusion as far as any foul play. A lot of people have heard that he died of a codeine overdose, which is not true at all. The coroner said, you know, he did not overdose. And then you had all these newspapers that said that he did overdose. So that was just irresponsible media that came up with that story. But the official story was that he had sleep apnea, which is a condition which can make it hard for you to basically stop breathing in your sleep. And the story was that he took some codeine which prevented him from his body from waking up the way that it normally would.
Specifically, Pimp C's mom believes he was poisoned.
There was someone with him when he passed who was a very shady, strange character. So there is actually a person of interest, according to his mother, that she believed had something to do with his death.
While no official inquest had been opened into what really happened after what Julia said, the words of people like DJ Paul and Too Short has some thinking that something doesn't quite add up. Something about his death creeps me out. The thought of blood everywhere in a motel room and him being found on his knees in a praying position are bone-chilling. Rest in peace, Pimp C. You always spoke the truth. In Pimp C's case, there's no real way to ever get to the bottom of the story, as the truth probably died with him. But when it comes to Kanye's alleged near-death experience in Uganda, well, that's a different story. 2018 was a chaotic year for Kanye. From adopting the MAGA hat to claiming that slavery was a choice, it was a time period where he really endangered the public's love for him. But when he went to Uganda, it seemed like his trademark mood swings nearly led him to lose his life. Back then, Kanye was excited to go over to Africa in hopes that it would be creatively energizing.
We have to go to what is known as Africa. I just need to go and even find out what it's really called and just grab the soil and cook food, 5 meals a day so the metabolism stays up, and have my kids in the studio and have the mic in the open.
Initially, it seemed like all was going well. He was meeting and greeting the president, not to mention giving away free Yeezys to Ugandan children. But the trip was about to go off the rails during a fateful trip to the jungle. On September 29, 2018, Radar Online reported that Kanye and his family had visited a jungle safari in the night when Kanye decided he wanted to return to their exclusive resort. But his security said that wasn't possible. Apparently, they told Kanye they couldn't get a plane back and guarantee his safety, so Ye hired locals to escort him back home. Immediately, this was a concern for his team. They thought these guys were gonna kidnap Kanye, the source said. Both sides flashed their weapons and neither side would back down. It was a battle of wills, the source continued. Luckily, a plane was chartered for the morning and they left without incident. In a moment's notice, Ye could have lost his life in the Ugandan jungle, and in typical fashion, it would have been because no one could tell him what to do. But according to insiders, this was indicative of the extreme mental anguish that he was suffering at the time. I know someone personally that was with Ye in Africa. They said he was on one out there. Said he was so paranoid he thought Kim or the Kardashian family had hired someone to kill him and locked down his whole place until he could get a private jet there to leave and didn't let anybody on with him. Although no one on the trip had ever confirmed what occurred that day, there have been some subtle hints from people who were known to be in Uganda with Ye. First, there was Ye himself, who abandoned his Yandi album after the trip, renounced the red cap, dyed his hair blonde, and instead made Jesus is King. But conspiracy theorists also believed he left a little lyrical clue within the album about what went down on the track On God, where he said, "Bleach my hair every time they thought I could have died." Elsewhere, there was fashion designer and former Ye confidant Tremaine Emery, who posted a relieved tweet the minute they arrived back in America, declaring he could kiss the fucking ground. Then there was Yes Jules, who abruptly stopped updating her Instagram shortly after the apparent timeline where the kidnapping took place. At the time, she was the manager of good music signee 070 Shake and entered Ye's inner circle for a little bit. On an episode of his podcast, Joe Budden basically referenced the story, declaring that her and Terrence J were along for the potential near-death experience.
She went to fucking Africa with the West, but it wasn't really with the West. It was with homeboy that she was fucking, and they fucking tried to run her out of fucking Africa, and they tried to kidnap her, and then homeboy had to hire security in Africa, and then we never saw a location from Africa again. We never saw.
Since then, Yes Jules has seemed to vaguely reference what went down, hinting that all of the theorists weren't exactly right, but that they weren't exactly wrong either. Instead, she left it up to Ye to tell the truth of what happened out there. What a time. I can assure you, nothing that is mentioned in these comments is the truth, lol. Somewhat close, but major facts missing here. Maybe one day he will tell the story. For now, Ye hasn't expressed any interest in letting the world know what really went down, which is just like how Kendrick Lamar has been covering up the truth about his gang credentials. Growing up in the heart of Compton, Kendrick always maintained that he was a good kid in a mad city. But some people wondered if his ties to gang life are a little deeper than he had revealed. Before he was ever a multi-platinum selling rapper, his father moved out of Chicago to evade his own relationship with the South Side's gangster disciples. Many of his uncles were also affiliated with the Compton Crips. They were deep in the streets, so much so that one of them served a 15-year stretch for armed robbery, and another is behind bars for the same crime today. Unfortunately, they would be the lucky ones, as Kendrick's uncle Tony would be killed at a burger stand, and this tragedy would be commemorated on the track Money Trees and PMP.
Pain since my grandma's death, uncle killed at Louis Burgers. Hold my tears, I try my best, let it go, drench my poor lover.
But throughout the years, Kendrick has always maintained that he's not an actual participant in the gang life, but just someone who saw a lot. However, there are some who have suggested that Kendrick's ties to the Bloods, specifically the Westside Pyrus who were active in his neighborhood, runs deeper considering that he's still friends with so many of the members. Among them is Hida J3, one of his homies from back in the day who said that Kendrick still reps his hood in his own ways.
Yeah, Kendrick a real homie though. A lot of niggas don't know that. Kendrick done paid for homies' funerals, put money on homies' books. I'm on his album cover, To Pimp a Butterfly. Yeah, I'm in the front of him. Yeah, still to this day, he putting on.
You know,
for the section.
He even commented on a post recently from Academics where he stood up for Kendrick after it was posted that they were bumping Drake in Kendrick's neighborhood. Because of comments like this, people think he is maybe a little more entrenched in that life than he said. Kendrick was fucking with street dudes before he got money. Drake had to get rich and then pay for street credibility. Other stories like AD from the No Jumper podcast also don't help. Apparently, despite being at least double his height, Kendrick tried to threaten AD over an incident that happened way back, but it was a case of a mistaken identity.
You wanna know a crazy thing about Kendrick, bro? My first encounter with him, he thought I was somebody else, bro. He low-key tried to press me. I guess some niggas jumped him back in the day, and I came to the studio, and he was mad. He was like, hey, you from Almond Block? And I was like, nah, but he was hot. Almond Block is another hood of Compton. And I was like, nah, I ain't from Almond Block. And he was like, you is from Almond Block. I'm like, nah, I ain't from Almond Block, I'm over here. And then we was cool after that. He was mad, if I was from Almond Block, he would've got his get back on me that day.
But for everyone who felt Kendrick's ties to the Pyrus run deep, there are others who feel that while he does rep Compton to the fullest, he was never an active gangbanger. In reality, he was actually kept away from that life when he began to show promise.
Crazy part about it is Kendrick really grew up in a rough neighborhood, protective neighborhood, but a rough neighborhood. Shout out to those brothers over there. He grew up in Westside Piru area in Compton because they made sure he stayed grounded. He didn't get snatched into it because a lot of cats, when it comes to the gang life, we get that negative shit. But Kendrick's, he's a living proof that you can grow up over there and the community and the gang members will protect you and make sure you don't get caught up in this. It's a different thing going on.
According to those from the neighborhoods of Compton and who are familiar with the world of Crips and Bloods, this seems like the logical answer to how K-Dot's links to the Pyrus work. This is old school rules. The bright spot, the smart kid, the college kid, the rising star, the athlete were always protected. Older heads always told you to stay off the corners, get in the house by 9, and keep your head in the books. Stay focused and go be great, then bring opportunities back. Even if that is the case, rappers are still afraid of Kendrick Lamar, and if you want to learn more about that, just check out this video on the screen. Or if you want to check out more hip-hop conspiracy theories, then check out the other video on the screen. My name is Louaista, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. By the way, if you want me to make a part 3 to this, go ahead and leave a comment for me.